Hi, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here in snowy Paris for my first time. It's been fun walking around with high heels and getting to know the city in a new context. So I'm Kristin. I'm from the United Nations in New York City. And I'm going to give you a brief presentation on some of the work that the UN has been doing with virtual reality since we launched our first film in January 2015. So we'll start with a little bit of history and some context about why we got into VR, and then look at some of the ways we're looking to use it for impact, and then some of the future-looking ways that we're trying to use it to expand into new areas. So a little bit of context. The Sustainable Development Goals were launched in September 2015, and it's a global plan that all countries ratified to try to get the world on a path to better progress for eliminating poverty, climate change, and fighting injustice and inequalities. And I mention this because it's not just a marketing and a communications exercise, it's a statistical exercise, it's a really open plan that the UN has really shifted from trying to tackle these problems by themselves or with governments to really opening the door to some profound long-term thinking and collaboration. And I mention this because it happens right at the beginning of a big industrial revolution, and these SDGs are coming up with the rise of all of that. And so being able to harness these new technologies and these new innovations to actually push this progress forward is one of the reasons our campaign has got into it. And I also say that because anybody can get involved, so all of you could get involved and be able to use this branding to communicate your ethics of your brand and how you are personally contributing to this. So our campaign was launched to try and share news about these goals, but also to create platforms and tools so that people can actually get involved in different ways. And we have a lot of different projects. UNVR is just one of them, but we sit across the whole UN system, and so we're able to unite the UN in different ways under these goals as the framework for the language and the way that we're moving forward together. So, about UNVR. I put this quote up there because this was the first reason we really got into it. We wanted to target decision makers, world leaders, and put them in the shoes of other people who were suffering around the world or who they may not have the chance to actually have conversations with or experience their life. Many times when leaders go to visit refugee camps or other places, they have this quick 15-minute tour and they do their photo ops, but they don't get the real quality time to see what it really feels like for those people. So it was really an effort to just put people in other people's shoes. And we also started working with the general public, but we got into VR kind of early, so it was a little bit before the technology had kind of expanded. So this is our kind of brief about what UNVR is. As I said, it works across the whole system. We try to help the UN system with pushing their creative thinking as well as their campaigning around VR forward. And we support it with distribution, so promoting the brand as well as hosting exhibitions in different places, working with partnerships all over the world to kind of innovate about why we're using VR or how we're going to get it out to the public. We try to really use creative storytelling as well as new ways of using immersive technologies to try and change the world in different ways, even if it's one individual at a time. So these are some of the brands that have gotten into VR at an early stage, and there's more joining all the time, but as you can see, the UN is a complex organism. Everyone has their own different reasons for addressing virtual reality and for why they're trying to communicate the messaging. So we just try to help work across all of those and bring them together in different ways. These are some of the first films. Some of you may know Clouds Over Sidra, which was about a Syrian refugee. A little girl who had moved from Jordan was living in the Zaatari refugee camp, and it was told in a precocious manner from the viewpoint of a child. So not really trying to hammer home a message about why you need to care about Syrian refugees with numbers or with statistics, but rather to put you in their shoes and feel what it might feel like to be her or to see her, your family or other people in her in different ways. These are some of the other ones. You see UNICEF, UNFPA, OCHA, and so it really started as a way to kind of look at some of the places other people can't go and put them in that space. Again, we try to push it towards narrative storytelling. One person, a character you could really latch onto so that you can remember them better and you can have that personal connection. A lot of people have been talking about presence and the way that in VR you have this really special experience where you feel like you've talked to a person. So trying to bring that into the way that we're telling our stories at the UN to push that forward. We also allow people to actually tell their story, so we work with them to change it sometimes into a poetic manner, but these are the actual real stories of people around the world who are experiencing these different issues. It's also a really great way to communicate the UN's work to new audiences. We've premiered at a lot of these different film festivals. We've also won a few awards ourselves. So it's really expanded the reach that we've been able to have in different ways. These are some pictures of some world leaders up there. So we brought it to the Security Council, we brought it to the UN General Assembly. We're at different huge forums in education, as well as being able to come to events like this and really try to work with people to help us do this better. So getting a little bit into the impact of VR. I see this as a way to really look at a quality education for life over time. So working with young people, you can change their perception at an early age and help them connect with people that they had never thought of across the world. But over time, it can even change the perceptions of adults about other people's lives. So it's a lifelong learning trajectory, and VR has the ability to really impact people over time. So again, we use it for advocacy, to show it to world leaders and to other people who have the ability to make change, and also to have these interesting moments with kings and queens wearing headsets for photo ops that we can then say, hey, you saw that story, so what are you going to do about it? So it has this kind of rolling effect besides just the picture, but we can use it again. Education, I've already highlighted. We're looking at new programming with actually bringing it to schools in a cohesive manner, so for guided learning tools, but we're also looking to launch new programming with teaching young people how to use 360 video so that we can see the world through their eyes. It's really interesting to see what young people are doing with VR because they're not really tainted by the kind of window of videography that a lot of us have previously been introduced to. So they're using VR in a really interesting manner to do shifting change of scenes and to transport people into different perceptions of who they are in the scene. So it's really great to see what's coming out of that. And we expect to have some announcements in March about how we're going to be taking that forward. Fundraising, UNICEF is here. You should definitely stop by their booth and see the new video that they're working on. UNICEF has really done an amazing job with testing this to see the effectiveness of fundraising with their face-to-face fundraising. They're seeing amazing numbers with doubling impact with the locations that they're getting for showing it to the public, with the amount of people that stop and watch VR, whether they sign up to be monthly donors, the amount of time they stay up, the amount they give. So these are all really positive numbers. That's really exciting to see that this is really impacting the funding side of the UN's work. We're looking to get into more training, so a lot of times we need to spend a lot of money putting people in situations so that they're ready for conflict or security situations or natural disasters, and this could really save a lot of money in doing that, but then also prepare the general public or others who may come across this stuff with the increase of climate change or with security concerns around the world. So it's a really great way to be able to reach more people. So we're moving towards some new kind of ways in the future of how we want to work, and the last one, training, is kind of showing that how can we use VR new in different ways. And we're really exploring this spot, so I'd love to hear advice or different suggestions from you about how we can do this better. But we see that this is really such an amazing tool from all of the experimentation we've done over the last 3 years, so we're excited about what this can be. And so one of the things we're really focusing on is moving to scale. So We want to build a UNVR app and a website that can host calls to action and these guided curriculums that teachers can access, as well as these fundraising asks in one coordinated place, as well as an app that anybody can download on their phone. Also looking at trying to reach people in the Southern Hemisphere who may not have the same broadband that we have so that they can access this technology, which usually has high download speeds. So we're really excited to work with this piece, and we're expecting some great announcements on this soon. And we're trying to, of course, increase the footprint in exhibitions so that more people can access this, present in different locations physically. Some ideas that we have for way people can partner with us, to sponsor content, to provide technology and hardware, to support the distribution, to organize panels, so bringing in different thought leaders to talk about this subject. We've had some really great examples of showing it at a cocktail party and then having a 1-hour discussion with policy leaders who can actually really deep dive in the subject and give a big context and the background on the situation so that they're feeling the storytelling side, but then also the critical side from academics and other government leaders so that they can have a broad perspective. Facilitating educational mentoring programs, again, with young people, but also really the general public or anybody else would really benefit from this. So excited to hopefully move in that direction as well. Also looking to collect data, build the case for support so that there's a really strong framework for the UN and for other NGOs and international organizations who are trying to use VR in different ways to reinforce that. A lot of times it's been a hard kind of sell for different management and others in this changing world about why would we do VR, what's the impact, and we're seeing this impact in fundraising, in the perception change, so just trying to collect more research in that space. And then also trying to innovate about how the way we cross-collaborate with transmedia, other media, such as videos or storytelling with photography to really reinforce the situation and fight that single narrative of one person and show lots of people's perspectives. So this is the contact info. It's www.unvr.org. We're on social media at United Nations VR, and that's my email if anyone wants to get in touch with me. But thank you very much. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Kristin. Do we have any questions in the room? Raise your hand like that. Yay. No? Okay. Yay. Thank you.
Hello, it's exceptional what you are doing. I'm very curious about your department, VR department, how many, because if you are producing by yourself, or have you got like, you are collaborating with VR producers, you've got also Chris Milk on your board, I think.
Yeah, so we're a pretty small team, a pretty small campaign, so a lot of our work is working across the whole UN system, so a sort of collaborative approach. And all of the UN agencies have a different approach to this. But we haven't been making films for last year. We made 5 in the first 2 years, and we've taken a pause to really try to kind of rein this system in and build a foundation for it. So what we're doing now is looking to leverage funding from third-party sponsors and working with creators who may come to us with an idea, which may be already advanced, so that we can try and align it with the SDGs and the UN's mandate, and potentially put it into our distribution system, which right now is really just exhibitions, but in the future we hope it'll be an actual digital distribution. But we also have calls for input sometimes because there are thematic and policy forums where we may not have the content, such as the Ocean Forum that was last year. The UN has never made a film underwater, so we needed to work with lots of creators, and actually we had a lot of French producers and directors who submitted for that, so it was really great to collaborate on that. So looking forward, we have this year forums on peace and prevention and on young people's perspectives. So follow the UNVR.org, and we'll be announcing some of that.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much, Kristin. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Oh, bye.